I have noticed a huge shift in how everyday people, just normal people with regular jobs, are actually getting rich. So in this video, I'm going to show you what this new era is and what caused the change, and a 3-step framework that you can use to start taking advantage of it today. And trust me, this is where the money is going to be made. So you're going to want to pay attention to it. So look, for years, everybody has been told the same thing. If you want to get rich, just start a business. And people bought into that dream because it sounds really exciting, right? Be your own boss, quit your job, become the next millionaire entrepreneur. But here's the truth, that in 2026, most people are waking up to. You don't need to build a business or start a business to build wealth. You just need to use the income that you already have. That's the shift. It's moving from this idea of a business is the best and fastest way to build growth to, no, I'm just going to use what I already have, my income, to start turning that into wealth. Because here's what I'm seeing, and this is happening all over the UK. People are honestly tired of hearing, oh, just start a business and you'll be a millionaire. Because most people that try to do that, it just doesn't work out that way, does it? And instead, people are starting to place huge value on their earned income and how that can be used in the right way as literally the most predictable route ever to real financial security. So let me tell you a quick story. So when I first started advising, literally like my first handful of clients, I met 2 people who could not have been more different. The first one, well, he introduced himself to me as like this big entrepreneur figure. You know the type, like the whole, they're on Instagram, the flashy business owner kind of vibe, like flashy photos, motivational quotes, talking about like hustle, building an empire, all that sort of stuff. And he made it sound like he was kind of taking over the world. But when I sat down with him and looked at the numbers, things were literally all over the place. Some months he would do all right, other months he'd barely scrape by. Like it was just so variable. It was a bit like watching someone trying to juggle fire, right? It was super impressive from a distance, but terrifying when you get close. Then around that same time, I met someone who honestly was just completely different. It was a woman with a normal job, a decent job, but just a normal regular job. Nothing flashy, no big speeches about being her own boss or anything like that. She just earned her salary, lived within her means, and quietly put money aside each month. Now, here is where this gets interesting. Fast forward to 10 years. They're still my clients. Now, that entrepreneur, the flashy one, sat in front of me this time around. He admitted something that, honestly, I think fair play to him because it took a lot of courage. He was like, I never really made any proper money out of the businesses. I kept trying, but it never actually paid off. And I was just hoping that at some point someone would come along and buy my business for a load of money, but I never really made any income out of it. And in the end, he shut the businesses down, and I think he'd like just gone back into regular employment. Meanwhile, the other girl, the office worker, the one who never tried to like look rich, she was now sitting on over £500,000 of invested cash. £500,000 built slowly, steadily, and consistently, just using her income properly. Same decade, completely different outcomes. Not because she was luckier, not because she was smarter, but because she used the money that she earned, as I said, in a consistent and predictable way. And that is the shift that I really, really want you to take away from this video. Not chasing the dream of millionaire entrepreneur, but using the income that you already have to quietly, reliably, and consistently build real wealth. So why is it that people are only just waking up to this now? Why is 2026 the turning point? Well, here are a few big reasons that I've noticed and themes that I've started to see that basically prompted me to make this video now. So It's never more obvious that businesses, new businesses particularly, fail quickly and painfully. So starting a business, as I've said, sounds like the fastest route to wealth. But the reality is 60% of them fail within 3 years. Less than 43% of them survive to year 5. That's just about surviving. It's not necessarily about earning decent money on it. So people are starting to realize, and I'm seeing this every single day, people are starting to realize that this whole concept of entrepreneurship isn't this guaranteed path to wealth that everyone is telling you online. It's basically a gamble, right? You've got 50% chance of even staying alive, let alone making any decent money. Then a stable income is now seen as a huge advantage. This is something that I never thought that I would see. So with interest rates high, inflation unpredictable, and living cost rises, I am seeing now that people are finally starting to appreciate the value of a consistent, predictable monthly paycheck. That stability is the foundation for most people. It's not this trap, this wage slave trap that everyone keeps telling us that it is. And number 3, the 9 to 5 is a prison narrative is finally falling apart. So social media has spent years calling people wage slaves. I absolutely hate that one. But now people are starting to compare notes, right? And they're seeing like their friends that are doing this sort of thing burn out, go broke, close businesses, go back to employment anyway. And they're realizing that a normal job gives you consistent income, employer benefits, pensions, predictability, all of which are huge wealth building tools. Then ISAs and pensions are growing, but they're massively underused. In 23-24, the tax year 23-24, 14 million ISA accounts were active in the UK, but only 4 million of them were in stocks and shares ISAs, meaning that the majority of people are still avoiding investing. And millions more people just have no ISAs at all. So that means that most people are not taking advantage of tax-efficient savings and investing, which leaves a huge opportunity for anyone who actually does. So all of that explains the shift. People are waking up to the fact that they already have a absolutely unbelievably powerful wealth building tool in their hands, their income. They just need to use it properly. So let me show you how. Right. Step 1. This is a big one because tax is probably the biggest friction point that you're going to have when it comes to turning your income into lasting wealth. So step 1, try to beat the tax trap. So this is the absolute brutal truth. Tax is one of the biggest blockers to building wealth. If you earn, let's say, £100 in the UK, by the time that you've paid tax, national insurance, all those other bits and bobs, you might be left with 60 quid in your bank account. That's a bit like running a 100-meter race, but starting like 10 meters behind the starting line. You're already trying to have to play catch up with that extra £40 that's gone on tax and national insurance before you even get going. But instead, imagine a bit like instead of starting behind the line, you actually could start almost like 10 meters ahead of the line. That is what happens when you use your workplace pension properly. So, see, when you put £100 into your pension, you don't lose the £40 to tax. You get the full £100 into your pension working for you. And then, and this is the magic part, your employer will often match what you put in. So it's like the sort of race official on that 100 meters race going, look here, take an extra 10 meters on us. So it's literally starting not only at the starting line because you're moving £100 into your pension and keeping it rather than earning 100 getting 60 and then trying to invest it from there. But actually, with employer matching, it's outrageous because you're starting at the starting line and then being given an extra 10 meters in the round. So let me give you a real example. So one of my clients, he used to literally always say to me like, oh, pensions are boring. I'm not interested. I don't want to get involved. I need my money today, blah, 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 blah. And he used to literally just always avoid talking about pensions whenever I brought them up. And he was like, they're boring. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I do understand that pensions sound boring. But once he realized that he was missing out on free money from his employer, he started putting in like 5% of his salary into his pension. And of course, the beauty of that is that his employer added another 5%. So his £200 contribution, which would have landed in his bank account taxed, by the way, so maybe, I don't know, £150 that he gave up, was £200 into his pension, instantly became £400. Look, that's not investing. That's not risking anything. That's just using the rules properly. If you want the quickest, easiest way to turn income into wealth, starting with your pension is the single greatest thing you can do. It's the only legal cheat code that we actually have. Step 2. This is an interesting concept. You need to get a grip on what I call your wealth building velocity. Now, this is, as I said, where it starts to get a little bit interesting. Most people think about how, like, building wealth is all about how much you earn. But that's kind of really only half of the picture, isn't it? The real key is something that I call your wealth building velocity. And trust me, when you understand this concept, and if you can really, really start to reframe this, it will change how you look at turning your income into lasting wealth. So your wealth velocity is just how much money you have left after all of your bills and all of your outgoings that you can actually go towards building your financial future. That's it. Simple number, massively powerful. So let me show you how this plays out firsthand with a friend of mine that I was having a conversation with recently. So he was earning like serious money, 6 figures, well into 6 figures. Really, really, really good salary. And every single time we're in the pub and I used to say to him, look, mate, you really should start thinking about saving or investing or, you know, just try and do a tiny bit. He would just literally brush me off. He'd say things like, mate, I'm just living for today, or I'm just starting later on down the line. I'll start saving later. My mortgage is massive. I've got the car, the holidays. There's not really a lot left at the end of every single month. And honestly, because the money felt kind of big to him, he sort of thought that he was always financially solid. But then one day he lost that job, literally no warning, no plan, nothing, just gone. And after 6 months of not really finding another role like that, because look, jobs at that level don't just pop up every single day. I remember the point where he had to literally start cutting things back. So the house, the flash car, the expensive monthly commitments that he had, all the stuff that made him look wealthy was suddenly really, really weighing him down because there were such high monthly costs. And a little bit later, he did get a job after a while, and he still got a relatively decent job, but it was nowhere near the level that he was on before. Probably like half, I think, of what his old income was. But here's the part that stuck with me. We were talking one evening, and he was like, do you know what's mad? I'm earning half of what I used to, but I'm actually saving twice as much as I used to now. Because he was saying that once all of the lifestyle noise, all of the expensive monthly costs got stripped away, he actually finally saw what I've been trying to tell him for years. It doesn't matter how much you earn if all of it is eaten up by outgoings. Look, wealth isn't about income. It's about velocity. It's about how much actually survives the month that you can use for your ammunition. And once he understood that, once he started kind of focusing on what was left instead of what was coming in, his whole perspective around this sort of stuff changed. And that is the power of the wealth building velocity. When you track this number, you kind of stop being like surprised at the end of the month. Like, where did it all go? Well, you can see it if you do this. And once you see it, you can fix it. So literally just get out a pen, really super simple. Grab a pen, write down what you have coming in and generally what you spend every single month. What's left over, that is your wealth building velocity. So get a bit of an understanding on that and you won't go far wrong with understanding how to build wealth with your income. Step 3, give every pound a job. Now, this is my absolute biggest bugbear. Give every pound a job. This is kind of the step that brings everything together as well. So imagine for a minute that you're driving from like Scotland to London. You know that if you're heading off, London is technically south, right? So theoretically, you could just start driving like south-ish and hope for the best. Then eventually, after taking like 6 wrong motorway turnings and getting lost, you might eventually get there if you just keep going south. That is how most people save and invest their money. They just move south. They just put money somewhere and just kind of hope that it works out. But now imagine that exact same journey with a sat-nav, precise directions, fast routes, clear arrival time. Way, way easier, right? Well, giving every pound a job is your financial sat-nav. It means that you don't just randomly, arbitrarily save money. You tell each pound like why it exists. Is it there to buy a house? Is it there to protect you from emergencies? Is it for retirement, holidays? Is it for growing future wealth? When you do this, something pretty cool happens. And it's something that I've seen time and time again. You stay focused. You stay motivated. Because if you can see the path, you can see the progress, pretty much. You see the point. So this is what I always use for clients who hate budgeting and how you can give every pound a job with a really, really simple framework. So just copy this. So pot number 1, must-haves, right? So this is all the stuff that you can't avoid. So rent, mortgage, food, car, electricity, council tax, all that sort of stuff. Just put that in a pot. Pot number 2, wealth building. That is your wealth velocity fund. The money that actually moves your life forward. So things like your investments, your emergency fund, your long-term goals. This pot is one of the most important ones. And pot 3, the enjoyment pot. This is things like holidays, fun, meals out, gadgets, weekend trips, hobbies, whatever. So this structure and having a simple give every pound a job, i.e. its destination in whatever pot it's going in, really solves this problem of you worrying about like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing with it and I'm just randomly heading south, like I said, from the Scotland to London analogy. If you're not from the UK, you probably won't get that reference, but just I assure you that Scotland is just north from London, basically. So with this, the rules are pretty simple. Just fill up your must-haves first, obviously. Then set a fixed amount into your wealth building pot. Remember, that's the velocity number. Then whatever's left, just go into the enjoyment bit and spend every single penny of it. This structure, it means that you'll never really overspend and you'll never really steal from your own future. But there is a few critical points that you need to know to get this type of budgeting right. If you don't do it quite right, you can get things wrong and they can go south pretty quickly, which is why you should watch this video here next, where I will go through that exact strategy in way more detail and run how to make sure that things turn into a long-term sustainable process that builds wealth on autopilot. So give it a click and I'll see you there.